morning. It is morning huddle time.
Good morning. It is morning huddle time. I'm Chad Prinky here alongside Stacy Holzinger, as always.
The nature of the beast is the competitive nature of the industry.
Is if you can see it, you can be it.
It's all about the people. The people are what make it great and worthwhile.
Yeah, anything that I think helps build the story behind the company is great.
These are the things that that you're like, we don't need that because we have plenty of work right now. Got it. But if you don't do it now, where are you going to have work in the future? The Morning Huddle Construction Show is fortunate to have 5 sponsors for Season 7, helping us to spread the word and create positive change in the construction industry. And we want to give a shout out to each of them and thank them now. First is Katz Abosch. This is a middle market accounting firm with a deep specialization in construction, tax, audit, accounting, fantastic group of people. Next is Lawrence Law. This is a boutique law firm that works with contractors and helps them with their day-to-day legal needs as well as all of their most significant legal challenges that they might run up against. Lawrence Law. Then we have Sandy Spring Bank, which is a regional bank in Maryland with a group of people who really understand what the needs of construction businesses are and who partner with you to achieve your financial aims. So Sandy Spring Bank. And then we have Marsh McLennan Agency, bonding and insurance professionals who really just have unparalleled insight into the construction industry. They're the best in the business. And then lastly, we have Genesis AEC. And Genesis is a full service architecture, engineering, and construction management firm with a deep specialization in the life sciences industry. We also happen to have some of their folks help us with guest hosting from time to time. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Let's get back to the show. Good morning. It is morning huddle time. Chad Prinky here alongside myself. Stacy is out today. I am flying solo with our guests, so I won't waste any time. I'm going to pull in the Sousa Brothers. We've got Roy and Luis joining us from Portugal. Welcome to the morning huddle, you guys.
Hey, Chad. Yeah, nice to have you here.
Yeah,
thank you, guys.
It's great to be with you guys. It's afternoon where you are, morning where we are, and depending on our audience, they could be listening at any point in time. So but exactly. That's what's going on. Thank you thanks for taking the time. So Roy and Luis are the head of a consulting firm that works in the AI space called Scalit AI. And they're also the creators of the AI Break newsletter and podcast. They're, very vocal, very plugged in, and focused on real world practical application of AI on a day-to-day basis, which is why we brought them on, because I think the construction tech space is immense and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of room for confusion, as our audience frequently tells us, and my clients always tell me. It's like it's hard to really key in on what tech we should be using for our business. And this one just seemed like a slam dunk because ChatGPT is something that we all know. Most of us have played with. Some of us are using on a day-to-day basis. I know Stacy is really actively using ChatGPT. Different folks on our team are using ChatGPT. And I told Stacy, I was like, I'm excited personally because I'm going to have my pen out. I'm going to be taking notes because I don't use it particularly well. And I think there's tons of opportunity to create efficiency and better work products with effective use of ChatGPT. And so that's maybe not the only topic that we're going to cover today, but it'll certainly be a headliner, and it'll be where we start. Is what should construction companies be doing immediately inside ChatGPT? So that's kind of the focal point for today's conversation. I'm going to start off, if I can, just by asking you guys to lay the land for us. Give us a little introduction to ChatGPT. What's the history of it? How does it work? Just kind of lay of the land for somebody who's a newbie in this zone.
Yeah, for sure, Chad. So first of all, I think you started correctly, which is it's okay to be overwhelming with AI. There is so many things right now out there, and even for us that we actually do it on a daily basis, it can still be overwhelming as well. But one thing, and I think that's why it's really good, this podcast, is because you should focus on one thing, and then when you start implementing on your daily basis, you can try other stuff. And as you said, ChatGPT is probably the most well-known AI platform out there, and is the one that we started 2 years ago, and I think that's the best one, especially if you never heard about it or you never use AI in your company. ChatGPT is, I would say, like probably the main one that you should just be focusing on the next couple of months, because you will then learn everything to test other AI. So just to give a quick background on ChatGPT, is actually the company behind it is called OpenAI. He actually started in 2015, so it's not recent. It actually have a couple of years, and they tested on the back end just some AI. So AI is not super new. It's actually been around for a couple of years, which nobody knows until actually launched ChatGPT. But ChatGPT itself, so that was the product that they launched to the public. It launched on November 2022. So more or less 2 years ago, that we'll be making, and that's when everybody starts seeing around, testing it out.
I remember being with my family for Christmas that year, and everybody thinking it was hysterical to plug things into ChatGPT. And at the end of 2022, right, we were all like, "This is crazy! Hey, write a short story in the voice of a 1920s police detective." I mean, it was a lot of fun. We were messing around with it, and so yeah, it has been out there for a couple of years. It's certainly not the first AI that's ever existed, right? Artificial intelligence has been a part of consumer technology for a long time, right? It's now getting to a level that it's scary, and it's now
exactly
that level that it's now getting to that level that it appears to think on its own, right? So it's
exactly
that's where OpenAI comes in. That's where ChatGPT comes in.
Yeah, and we'll reach that in a second when we talk a little bit about the future, because there are always updates coming up, and one of them, and we'll talk a little bit, it actually starts to think by itself before it answers, which is really cool, and it never had before. But just tell a little bit about when it started, and another thing that people may should know as well, is that there is a really big percentage, especially on the US, that people still don't know what ChatGPT is or never use it.
Yeah.
So if you think that you are still behind, don't worry. There is a majority part of the US that never work with it or doesn't know about it. So if you're watching this podcast, you already probably ahead 80% of the people that don't know. But
you're mentioning the US, right? You're not even talking about the rest of the world. So
here in Portugal,
there's still plenty of time.
Here in Portugal, probably I'll go to the street and nobody knows about it. But
is that right?
Yeah, it's well, I will tell, like, mostly students and universities, they really like it into it because they see on TikTok and so on. But older people never heard about it, and you can still crash in Portugal if you just use AI in your business, right?
I mean, so don't feel behind if you're just hearing about it. This is still relatively new. Yes, there are people who've made massive strides and are super focused and experts on this, like you two. But you're not strange if you're not up to speed yet. So that's okay.
And it will take some time. Again, the speed is going in a faster pace at the moment, but it still will take some time to so everybody can use it. So you don't feel behind on that for sure. But just to explain a little bit about ChatGPT in a super simple way that people may not know, is that imagine that you are on a coffee shop and your best friend on your right is the guy that knows everything. And you are just talking with him and he will give you answers. Okay, so that's kind of like ChatGPT in a sense, which is you ask him like for a question, you ask him for a task, and he will do it for you, right? And then you can just continue the conversation with him, like improving that answer, right? So you can ask him like, hey, John, what is like the capital of France? He will tell you, oh, it's Paris. And you can continue the conversation. You can ask like, oh, can you do me an article about construction or tips for construction? And he will create the article. So basically, ChatGPT is just an artificial intelligence chatbot that you can conversate and you can talk to until you get the output that you desire. So I think that's the simple way to tell people what ChatGPT is. And when he started, just for you guys to know it, when he started, it was only text back and forth. Now you can actually, integrate, for example, images, videos, audio. So ChatGPT now can create images. It can read for example, spreadsheet files, and we will talk a little bit about live examples on construction. But you can read spreadsheet, like you can send a full material spreadsheet, and it can tell you like how many materials in there, like the quantity, improvements, and so on. So it's really getting to a point that you cannot live without it. And I think a really cool thing that a lot of people say right now is that AI will not replace your job, but someone that knows AI will replace it.
Right,
so,
right.
So that's kind of thing the takeaway here. Like, don't freak out if AI will take your job. It will not, but you'll get behind if you don't know how to use AI in your business. Because right now, one person, I think that's one of the main key points, is that myself only, I can create and compete with big, for example, we have a paid advertising agency. We can compete with a multi-million-dollar agency in the US that spends billions of dollars, have like 100 people on their team using AI. And that's why that's the beauty of AI, is that you can actually compete with bigger companies without needing to spend a lot of money or having like a super huge team. Okay.
Yep.
And I think that's
I'm
probably the biggest takeaway on ChatGPT.
That's great. So one of the it's a helpful concept to think about the idea that we will that your effective use of this technology is that's sort of the value. It's not the technology itself. It's the degree to which you can use these tools, and it's frankly it's very similar to me to being really good at Googling something. I know people who can't find things online, and it always
Exactly.
it always cracks me up when I'll be talking to my dad. My dad's like, I can't find this online. How do you figure out a steakhouse in Texas and whatever? I'm like, so you just go to Google, and you be specific and type in. But it's understanding how to put in those search terms, and writing prompts for ChatGPT is not an awful lot different from that, right? It's just it's a different. You have to get yourself into a different mode. It's not Googling something. You can't just necessarily type in like steakhouse Dallas into ChatGPT. It's going to be like, I'm not sure what you're asking me. But it's a similar sort of concept. So you talked about the flexibility for the tool to now be able to read an article for you and summarize it, or read your a spreadsheet that you feed it and ask it about data about from that spreadsheet and say, hey, give me information about this or give me information about that. Can you talk about what sort of comes with the free version, what comes with the paid version, and what we what level you really need to be playing at? If you kind of heard like, ooh, that sounds really nice, I'd like to be able to do that. How much do I need to spend on ChatGPT to get that to happen?
Yeah, I can take that one. So I think a lot of the models now and platforms out there are pretty similar, where the biggest difference between free, especially like Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT, where the biggest difference between free and plus or the premium versions is the capacity you can use them, and also access to new things. But majority of, or the biggest thing you're going to notice is capacity. So a free user, if he's using ChatGPT, if you are using like the newest models, or even their abilities of browsing or creating an image or analyzing data, you'll see that you're going to be capped at a certain volume. So after a certain time, you're not going to be allowed to use those stuff anymore, and you're going to go to their, let's say, cheapest model or a lower model, which, to be honest, for a lot of people.
If I'm going to do it once at Christmas with my family, the free version is appropriate. But if I'm going to make it a part of my day-to-day work stream, I'm going to need to upgrade because of capacity limitations, right? If I'm going to feed it something every day, I might run out of space.
If you feed it every day with just basic things like writing an email or just like give me some pointers or just brainstorming, I think their lowest one right now is ChatGPT 4o Mini, which is what everybody gets for free with no really limitation cap. That's more than enough, right? And I think people will realize when they start using it if they need premium or not, because if you're using certain capabilities like or more advanced models, like for example, if you do a lot of coding, math, science, or if you need to generate images or upload a lot of PDFs for analysis, you'll notice that you're going to get capped pretty quickly. So you probably need the kind of the other tier, which is $20 a month. So it's totally worth it if you use it on a daily basis, and if you use it for a bit of more complex things, 100% is worth it. And then the other thing is the premium users usually get the newest things sooner, right? So right now there is the new advanced voice mode, which only Plus users can use, and it's not even available here in Europe yet. So they are releasing in different countries, and they also have their new models, which is OpenAI O1 Preview and OpenAI O1 ChatGPT O1 like Mini, which is what they call the reasoning model, which is basically a new model that they released that has a chain of thought. So basically, it thinks before it gives an output, and it's great. Like they say, it's a lot better especially for coding, for math problems, and science. And those models you can only access if you are a Plus user. And on top of that, and one thing we're going to discuss in a second, which will be you can view and use custom GPTs on the free, but you cannot create them in the free version. So if you have a business and you want to create a custom GPT for your business, and we're going to talk in a second why you should use it, then you're going to need the Plus version to create one.
So how much money are we talking here? How much do I need to budget?
$20 a month
per user.
Per user, yes. You can have there's other tiers, like there is the team tiers and the enterprise tier.
If you have more people, there are business versions of this. So if I'm thinking like, okay, I've got a 13-person estimating team, we know we're going to want to use this for our spreadsheet models. We're going to be plugging in takeoffs, and we're going to ask it to do certain equations for us. We need to budget for a team version of this rather than individual version or whatever.
Yeah, and the Teams version, I think you're gonna get cheaper, and it gets you get more features, like you can collaborate. But we work with companies where just a few teams have a Plus version, and then for more advanced things, and then everybody just was using the free version. But especially to create custom GPTs, you need at least one account that is Plus version. And yeah, those are I think are the main difference, right? Is the new it's capacity, access to new stuff that they release, usually goes to, of course, to Plus, premium versus free, and then the new advanced voice mode, which just got released recently, that you only got access to Plus. But I think we are getting to a point where everybody going to have access to everything. It will be a question of capacity, but these models are getting cheaper and cheaper. So I think we're going to get access to more and more people.
I always keep this in for the audience as you're paying attention to this stuff, and I want to talk a little bit about privacy and ethics and all that type of stuff toward the end of the program, but I have to jump on this little moment as we talk about free versus paid. Is overall, and remember this when it comes to, frankly, any product, but certainly in the technology age. If the product is free for you to use, you are the product. And that's a very important thing for you to digest. And, Google does an incredible job of monetizing your work on their platform. And I'm sure that OpenAI does the same in its own right. So we'll get there. I don't need to necessarily go down that path. I think we'll leave that as a teaser to talk about privacy and ethics later, and exactly what to do, do's and don'ts. But right now, I'd like to transition into the heart of using ChatGPT, which is prompt writing. And what is a prompt? And what are examples of real world prompts that you could imagine or you've seen in the construction industry, to help to draw this bridge for our audience to prompt writing and prompts that would probably make sense in their day to day.
Exactly, and actually, kind of funny because prompt engineering is actually now a job. That never didn't exist before and now exists. So basically, a prompt is the instructions that you give in order to get a response from ChatGPT and it's like an instruction that forces ChatGPT to focus on a certain task. So that's pretty much the concept about prompting. And a prompt, the better and the more information you give to ChatGPT, the better output you'll get. And I can give you like a really basic example. You can just say, hey, write me an article about top 5 tips to construction, or like and I don't know, like for example, top 5 tips for productivity. And you just write a prompt that just says, write me an article, right? It's really different from writing something like, hey, ChatGPT, I want you to act as a professional copywriter. I want to have a 2,000 character article, SEO optimized, about top 5 productivity tips. I want you to write and come up with the outlines, the titles, and I want 3 paragraphs each with a funnier tone of voice. And just for your context, I'm a SEO of AI agency, and I want to have, you know what I mean? Like, so it's really different. It's the same thing. You just need an article for productivity, but it will be so different one output to the other. Okay, so the prompt, and I think the key now of ChatGPT, because a lot of people say that everybody can use ChatGPT, and it's correct. So the key now is the prompt. So that's what people are specializing is just to be super specific on what they want, because ChatGPT will learn better and the output will be way better. So one thing that we can recommend to all of you, and I will go to the examples in a minute for construction, but we always follow kind of a rule of structure, and then I can send to you, Shad, as well. But basically, we always try to follow, instead of just writing, hey, give me an email script for like I want to reach out to construction companies, we always follow this structure. And basically the structure is role, task, context, structure, tone, examples, and format. I know it's too much. I know there's a lot of points, but we always, as we work these on a daily basis, we like to, to be super specific, and we want the best output because we actually create these for our clients. So it has to be the best output out there, right? So I will repeat again, it's just role, tasks, context, structure, tone, examples, and format. And I can give you an example. Imagine that we wanna, write an email to reach out to property manager. Okay, for example. So the role will be act as a professional email writer, right? Or for example, act as a professional sales rep, right? So that's the role. The task will be write me, not a clickbait, but like a sales email outreach or a mail script that I want to reach out to property management. Right. So that will be the task. The context will be what you are. So you have to say like, look, I'm a construction business in New York. We are a medium-sized company, and we work with property managers to create projects with them. And we have this service, and this service. So that's your context. So we can actually write in your own context and give like little personal tweak, right? Then you have the structure. So the structure can be, start with a personalized intro, then just go to the pain points of the project of property managers, and end with a call to action that I want to jump on a call with them. Okay, so that's the structure of the email, right? Then the tone. You can just say, write these on a professional tone because you wanted to reach out to property managers, right? So that's the tone. Examples, you can actually send to ChatGPT examples of previous emails that you sent. So you just put examples and say, hey, here are the top 3 emails that I sent previously. And you just copy and paste those 3 emails. And the last one is just the format. And the format can just be, this is more for like specific stuff like I want in a HTML code. If you want to use coding and formats like JSON format, so you don't need to use the format. And just for clear to everyone, you don't need to use all of these. You can just use some of them. The more you use, the better it will be. But you don't need to use all of them, right? But it's way better. Just telling ChatGPT, hey, I want to write an email to reach out to property managers selling my company, a construction company, right? It will be way, and you'll see the difference on it. It's huge. Okay, so that's how we use it. That's what a lot of people use it. And as I said, the more you use, the more you structure the prompt, the better it will be, right? So just to jump into live examples, right? I will tell some of constructions, of course, that we have ones that are similar to most of industries, and the one that we always like to start, because that's the one that people ask us the most for us, is just marketing and sales. So that's kind of the biggest.
It seems
the
like the
biggest one.
safest place for use of ChatGPT. It's like the most. And it's just like anything. This is your entry point. You're gonna this is our early adopters is marketing and sales. It's obvious when you're writing social posts or newsletter content or whatever else that you could follow this format and say, hey, write me 20 articles, please. Thank you.
Exactly.
And then you've got your content set for a while.
Exactly. And as you know, especially on 2024, 2025, content will be king, right? Like you need to be active on social medias.
Sure.
And the main problem before was like you took a lot of hours. And if you are a construction owner, you don't have time to do it, right? So
That's
you
right.
can actually plan, as you said. And when you talk about marketing and sales, it can be so many things. Like it can be just, as you said, articles, it can be social media posts, but it also can be, for example, if you need a presentation of your service. So you can have a PDF presentation and put it on a PowerPoint, for example. You can ask to make a flyer, to make images, so everything that relate to it. Even as I said, sales, there is so many things you can do on sale, from outreach scripts all the way to, for example, standard operation procedure for your sales team. Like how do you want them to conduct the call, for example, so you can create all your back end team, I'll say, content. So there's a lot of things, right? So that's marketing. I will say personally, if you guys want to start it out with ChatGPT on your company, start with marketing and sales. That's the easiest one, and it's not super specific, I will say, to the industry.
Construction,
So you can make mistakes. That's kind of the point. You can try it out and test it out, right? Then you have other stuff which we can go more in depth. For example, one of the stuff is that, for example, draft contracts. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about privacy, but everything that is a draft you can create, and then you can always go in there. And that's like a key point that me and Luis always say to people, which is always have a manual output at the end. Even if you create social media content, go there manually and check if everything is fine, if everything is correct, if there is any errors. Okay, don't just post without checking everything. So that's why you can actually do drafts. So you can do drafts for proposals, you can do drafts for projects as well, like all the the stages of a project. You can also do, for example, ask ChatGPT to help you estimate a timeline for a project. You can just explain what the project is, and ChatGPT can tell you how much will be, separate by phases, for example. That's another thing you can do, and you can put all the tasks between the phases of a project. That's really cool, right? The other thing that you can also do, for example, is procedures. So safety procedures on site or on projects. Everything, as I said, team related. So, for example, how the team should behave. All the political and legal stuff about teams. You can have like a full vault of documents that your team can follow. That's another thing. Another cool thing as well for construction is that, for example, I saw this example and I think it's really cool, is material suggestions. So you can give a project to ChatGPT and ask him, like, give me a table of the materials you think are like the best ones for this project. Or, for example, if you need to swap a material on this stage of the project, you can ask ChatGPT, like, what should I change? What is, like everything material related, you can ask ChatGPT to help you on that as well. So is one that you can actually say the most.
Roy, can I ask you a question? So
yeah.
One of the and I know it's rapidly changing. So I know the answer to this question used to be no. I don't know if the answer to the question is now yes. And we had a live question from our audience. Could ChatGPT be used to read architectural drawings? Is ChatGPT as a tool there yet? Or, yeah. So I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. So go for it, Roy.
No, I was just saying that yes, it can read images and drawings. Especially the newest models. Of course, if you ask to make like a change on the drawing itself, so ChatGPT doing the draw, that's more like tricky. It still have some errors.
No, what I would imagine people are looking for primarily in this case is to be able to upload a set of architectural drawings and be able to say, hey, here's a set of architectural drawings. I am a masonry contractor. I need to understand what the materials takeoff would be for masonry across all of these plans. Can you please provide me with an estimate of materials required, floor by floor, breakdown, yada, 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 for every one of these elevations? Is ChatGPT there?
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, you can chat, but I'll just add one thing here, which is the only thing you guys may have a challenge right now, and is keep improving, so it'll get better and better, is the size of the files. So just keep that in mind. Like right now, I think per image is 20 megabytes. Of course, there's ways around this, right? You guys can compress it, use it in a PDF format. Like for example, PDFs I think are bigger than images, so you can play around it. If you can upload it. Right now, it'll definitely read it and give you the output correctly. Like it's used now for a lot of other things, way more complex than that. It's just I think the challenge will be the size of the drawings. So if you manage to upload it on a decent size that ChatGPT can handle it, then you're definitely going to get the output.
That's amazing. I did not realize that ChatGPT, as this generalized tool across like the entire world, had now the expertise to understand plans. I know that there are some construction tech AI companies that sort of specialize in this. Hey, our AI, you upload architectural plans and you can get materials, you can get quantity takeoffs.
Do you know what they use on the back end, Chad, for that?
No, I have no idea. I just know that this is a thing.
ChatGPT.
So you can go around the middleman is what you're saying, and there may be, I'm sure there's value add to these technologies
because of the prompting and so on, right? Especially the promptings and the instructions. That's where the key is, right? A lot of the apps you see out there, they use ChatGPT as a background, but I will say the benefit of it is that they took the time to make the better instructions, everything, that so the output can be really good. And if you don't know how to do it, it will be less quality than using the app and pay like $20 for the app, right?
And it'll be specific, right? It'll be specific for our industry. So in that specific tech, that model going to have also feed with all the information specifically for those purpose, right? So the output will be better. So I think when you guys upload this type of drawings for ChatGPT, one thing that will determine really the quality as well of him reading the drawings is also the input you give. So that's what we're talking, right? Like the more information you give and explain what is the drawing, what he's seeing, the better the output you're going to get. So just keep that in mind. And those tools, if they are using OpenAI or any other model behind in the API, the main difference is the parameters that then they explain to the model to get the best output. So that's why probably those tools then of course get a better output, just because they train then, or they give inputs a lot better than just a normal user. But you definitely can do it.
This is definitely an extraordinarily great opportunity to create efficiency in estimating departments for construction companies. It is just massive, time consuming. It's always seemed, frankly, it's always seemed very inefficient to me as I think about the materials takeoff and here's the plans. And a dozen companies that do the same thing are all spending the exact same energy doing the exact same thing on that set of plans. It's always felt wildly inefficient to me, but it's it's a part of our current construction landscape. And I think the companies that figure this out are going to be able to drive down overhead in estimating, go after a lot more projects in a lot less time. Man, that could be really quite impressive. So I need to, just for the sake of time, I need to start making a transition into that safety and ethics and privacy kind of realm. Okay. So let's say I wanted to I got really inspired by this episode and other stuff, that I'm paying attention to as a contractor. And I'm just going to stick with trade contractors because I've been kind of using that as an example in my brain this whole time. And say, let's pretend I'm a masonry contractor, just for simplicity, right? I'm going to stack bricks and blocks and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm going to do. And I want to use ChatGPT to dial in my estimating accuracy. And I want to, so I'm going to take all the projects that I've estimated and I'm going to put them, I've got all these spreadsheets and I want to feed it into ChatGPT and I want to say, hey, can you, analyze this and help me to figure out, my current formula accuracy and, here are the 10 projects that went poorly. Here are the 10 projects that went well. Here's the estimates on those projects. Help me figure out what we were doing wrong and all this cool stuff that's going on in my mind. Like, man, we could do this, we could do this, we could do. How do I make sure that ChatGPT does not basically, learn how my company runs and start sharing that with my competition?
Yeah, so that's a big topic right now, a big discussion. I think like our advice is like at least for now, and any type of sensible information, I wouldn't fit it like right now on these platforms like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. There is, of course, like if you go to ChatGPT, they claim their terms and conditions, right? If you use a team tier or an enterprise or the API, their model is not trained on that. So that's like, at least if you want to use it and if you want to put like that type of information there, I'll definitely recommend you to at least upgrade to the teams tier or enterprise, or just use the API. So Ria and I use a lot of automation just using the API. Technically, they say they don't learn, right? Like if you go to Claude, it's the same thing. Gemini is the same thing. The problem is like you see all these like lawsuits, right, from New York Times to OpenAI, and because they just like all these models, they learn with data, they scrape everything on the internet. And I think that's also where there is a big discussion between open models and closed models, open source. So OpenAI, Claude, all these are closed models. What that means is no one apart from the company can really see under the hood and how it's trained and the parameters. Well, for example, Meta, so they released Llama 3, which is an open source model, which is everybody can have access to it. So you can at least know if you understand about it, you can see what type of data is trained. So it is a really sensible topic at the moment. It's really hard to say, yeah, use it, and then later on the company does something that they shouldn't do. So it's still early days. I do feel that, to be honest, like those companies are going to learn from, like, even before AI, Google was already learning about what we do, and Facebook and stuff. So it's really tricky, but I think that we're going to start having this type of companies and other companies coming up that are more tailored to enterprise, and they're going to be, of course, super specific in safety. At least right now, if you want to try ChatGPT and Claude and those things, I would always go to a premium tier, so not the free version. And in the particular case of ChatGPT, I would go to the Teams, which is I think $5 more. It's not more expensive than that. Or I would use the API because technically they argue in their terms and conditions they don't learn from that specific data. Is it that true? There's a question mark. Only probably Sam Altman and their team knows. But I think that's where it, like, there's a gray area there. But I'll do that. I wouldn't put like in the public stuff. Don't put your own data. If you need to, try to upgrade to a paid tier and check terms and conditions. There's like Claude AI, where they are a lot more concerned about safety. But in the end, these tools, why we were talking about it before, why they open free to a lot more people in the models is because they need data.
That's right.
To be trained, right? So they need inputs. They need people to be using their stuff to keep learning. So
and that was my point about if the product is free, you are the product. That's exactly what's going on. And so yeah, it needs data to know how to do this, and to do, if it's gonna learn how to produce an estimate for you, right? As an example, it's gonna need a lot of data to be able to do that. And so let me pivot. This is all very helpful, and let me pivot briefly then into the question of custom AIs, custom chat GPTs. That is, like, because I've heard about this. I don't know exactly how that works or what we're talking about, but this idea that, hey, I want a custom version of a GPT. Is that, start with, describe what it is, and then maybe pivot into the safety and privacy of that kind of model.
Yeah, so custom GPT is what basically they are, is like they are, kind of a specialized like chat GPT, based on instructions you're going to give. So basically, you can tailor a custom GPT on your, let's say, own data. And I'll give you an example. So you can create, like, for example, a custom GPT, which is basically in the interface. So for everybody that wants to know how to do it, it's just on the platform of ChatGPT. If you are a Plus user, on the top left, I think you're going to be able, top right, I think it's top left, you're going to be able to just create a custom GPT. And basically what that means is that you can give specific instructions to that custom GPT. So you don't need to keep, like, every time
you
you
don't
need
have
to
to
go
rewrite
to
the prompt every time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that GPT is specific for that. You can give one type of instructions and that's it. Going to always follow those instructions. And I think for us, the most interesting thing about it is that you can upload knowledge, what they call knowledge base. So basically, imagine for social media or creating an article, what you can do is create a ChatGPT, go through the process that we mentioned about the task and the role, and just give proper instructions. And then what you can do is upload PDF with your, let's say, 3 most recent articles and 3 social media posts. And then in the instructions, you tell the custom GPT, before you write, go and check the knowledge base and learn how I write. And then, the output. So that's where you can create custom GPTs that, for example, write articles in your tone of voice, in your style, and I think that's, and you can do other things. Like, for example, you can create, for example, an internal HR chatbot. What I mean by that is you can upload your HR policy to this custom GPT, and then have your employees, if they have a question about holidays, about whatever, they can go there, they ask, and there is the knowledge base there, right? So it's basically a custom GPT is like ChatGPT, but they have specific instructions and they have specific knowledge base that they can go and nobody else has access to. So
awesome.
You can upload your company data. You can even, for example, for sales team, you can upload like your pricing, your features, and if they are in a call, they can have the custom GPT on the right. Just ask, this client is asking me about this certain feature. Ask the chatbot, and then is always the same thing, but he has access to this stuff.
And then in theory, I mean, it's no different than a QuickBooks or a Sage or anything like that. You are sharing your private information with that company, but but they have an agreement at that point that they're not sharing that data inside your customer.
Yeah, because you just use the API to create the assistants, and technically they say that they'll not use it, right? But
right. Yeah, but again, it's like I say, it's just like any other technology company that we're currently trusting with our most sensitive data. At that point, it's just that perhaps AI has an incentive above and beyond these other companies to use that data to make their product smarter, better, more more valuable. So they have to exercise extra discipline to promise to double promise that they're not going to use your stuff.
You have other tools now coming up like Scalit AI and other platforms where that's their biggest claim, which is you upload knowledge bases and instructions, and it's just your thing. So it's kind of a closed entity and doesn't learn from it. But to be honest, even these agents, they use language model, like they are not the owners of language models. So they are using Claude, or they're using OpenAI, or they're just using through the API, and they kind of guarantee that is closed. But it's definitely a gray area. Technically they are not, but they are close. They are their own company, so you kind of need to trust them a little bit. And that's why some of those lawsuits you see on the internet about New York Times and media companies, where they claim that ChatGPT and Claude and all those guys just scrape their stuff, right? So
yeah, fascinating, good stuff, guys. If we wanted to, if our audience wanted to learn more about Scalit, about AI Break, where would you steer these guys? How can folks learn more about what you're doing?
So you can follow our newsletter and subscribe to the newsletter, the AI Break. I think it's like we send it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Kind of a recap of news, tutorials, tools, and then there you can also then kind of divert to different things we are doing. So we now have a YouTube channel, more focused on automations and AI, because there is then an extra, I think, level of using AI, which is automate a lot of things. So you don't need to actually go to ChatGPT and write stuff, right? And you can automate a lot of processes and a lot of things. So you can check us on YouTube. We write about automations and AI, and also we have a community we're starting a paid community where we kind of teach more in depth about AI, about the tools we use, and about kind of the automations we also put together for our company, our clients. That again, as we mentioned in the beginning, they can be used across multiple industries and multiple teams and processes. So yeah, they can find us there.
And if a company specifically did want to engage in having you solve, put together some of this stuff for them, that's something that you actively do for companies, correct?
Yes, they can go to our ScalitAI, so our website, or again through the newsletter, they can also reach out to us. But usually to our ScalitAI website, they can reach out to us and or on LinkedIn as well, and we can have a chat for sure.
Awesome. And that's SCALIT, correct?
Yes.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to be on the huddle. This was a great discussion. I'm excited to dig into your newsletter and learn more. And I've got all kind. I'm like, when can I get an hour to just mess around with this on my side? I've got the biggest problem, I think, for a lot of us is time, and so it may. To your point, right? Like you've got to learn to get good at this stuff. You want time back, this is going to help.
That's the thing, Chad. It's better to spend 1 hour learning to save 2 rather than just don't know it. Even as
right?
even Luis is saying, like, even for privacy, it's better for you to use rather than just be afraid of using. Just don't put your bank account there, but just use it for everything else, right? And you will see that it will save you time and it puts you ahead of the competition. I think that's the main key here. It's like it's better to jump rather than just wait until this is everything is private, everything is good. Like, don't wait for that. Like, just try to crush the competition before everyone goes there.
I love it. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate both of your time again. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Chad.
Yeah. All right. Another episode in the books. Great conversation today with the Sousa brothers. I am, as I said, definitely got my wheels turning about how I can be using it, how our clients can be using it. And I hope it did the same for you. So next week, we are going to be, hopefully we have Stacy back and she's feeling better. We're going to have we're going to have Neil Agarwal on, who is the owner and CEO of oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I dropped the ball. I see this is where Stacy usually comes in. So we're going to be talking about small business expansion and entering new niches as a company. And we're going to have Neil Agarwal and Ben Britton both on to talk about how this company has GE Frisco. Thank you, Brain. Brought it up. How GE Frisco has successfully expanded into different service lines and taken a legacy business and diversified, and what you might do inside your construction business to do the same. We do hope that you'll join us for that, and certainly would steer you to our newsletter, steer you to our website, which is themorninghuddleconstructionshow.com, themorninghuddleconstructionshow.com, which will give you everything you need to know about what we have coming up and what we've done in the past. Thanks so much. Appreciate you being here.